Nuggets YouTube channel with me, Anne Joroge. In this channel, I share nuggets about how to thrive in your career and your personal development. And for career, I have an inclination towards the legal career because that's the career I'm in. And my hope is that the nuggets that I share here and there are going to be useful for you to thrive in your career and your personal development. As I stated in my earlier introduction video, I am doing the career option series where I bring guests who are in different areas of the law, different trajectories in their career, and we share about their experiences and lessons they have learned, and to sort of make you as my audience have a more informed perspective when you're making decisions on what option to take, but also just the knowledge that there are so many options that they exist, there are so many trajectories that you can actually take. And in today's video, I have a guest with me. It's a person we went to law school together with in undergraduate, and someone I believe who took such a bold step to actually pivot to start their own practice. And it's not only like a general practice, it's very niche. There's a lot of lessons, there's a lot of insights that you can learn from him, and I'm excited to have him today. So karibu Meshack. Yes. So I think we can start with an introduction of yourself. I don't want to run the risk of under-introducing you because I think there's a lot you've done. So just introduce yourself, what you do, and specifically like the kind of trajectory you've taken in your career.
So again, thank you for the invitation. So I actually wanted to come primarily because a lot of these conversations are things I needed at some point in life, but I never really got them. But I can start with introductions. My name is Meshack Masibo. I'm a lawyer practicing in Nairobi. So I started practicing some while back. So I've been practicing for a while. I think this is my third day in practice actually, but people mostly think I'm older than that. So maybe a bit of background. So I think you mentioned into KU, Kenyatta University School of Law, did KSL, and then post that I've worked in a law firm, worked in the NGO space, worked law firm, NGO space, bit of research, and then now eventually pivoted and started my own thing. So that's my bit of background. So my law firm goes under my name, so it's Masibo Law. That's the name that I use to trade and to do business, and that's the bit about me as a person. I think the background.
Yeah, and maybe tell us more about Masibo Law, like.
Okay. So my law firm, it's a niche law firm as you've titled it. So I never thought about it in that context, but it's a niche law firm as you titled it, and it mostly offers services to tech companies. So I primarily focus on technology companies. The areas that we work in a lot, mostly payments, companies in payments, remittances, digital lending, startups with founders, and also a lot of just people in the tech space in that context. I think I mentioned those ones. So a lot of the work we do around them, we help maybe the startups in terms of funding. We work with them along funding rounds. So when they get funded by investors and whatnot, being able to advise them through the processes, getting them licenses, preparing different sets of contracts, and a huge majority of our clients are actually foreign-based, so helping them to set up here, whether it's registering the companies, getting permits, getting local addresses and all that. So that's primarily the focus that I have. But I do other areas, because initially I did other areas. I have some cases in court litigation that also touches on tech in certain aspects, but it's someone else who handles them, but it's part of the group that also do a bit of litigation, tech-related, some not so tech-related. But that's and some copyright related. So that's largely the bulk of what we do here.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned that we went to Kenyatta University School of Law, which is also the university I went to. And I'm just like, I would want to take you back to like when you were starting like in first year. Like when you're starting the law, like what trajectory did you think you would take? Did you have an idea, or did you not even like think about that? And how did that evolve or change like throughout first year, second year, third year, and then you finish, you get to Kenya School of Law? Like take us through that journey in terms of where you thought you would land and how that may be different or not. Maybe it's just the same. Yeah.
I think maybe a background as to why I wanted to study law. I think I studied law because there was a show that used to run when I was younger called Boston Legal. Then there was a guy there, he used to be called Danny Crane, and he used to be in this really top corner office, and he used to like drinking, I think it's scotch or whiskey, something, some really old. Then he looked really cool, and his cigar, and so all of that appealed to me as a person. I thought, okay, that's a very interesting way to live as a person. So, and how they made the arguments, they're called Danny Crane and Alan Shaw. So the arguments, so it was so interesting to me to look at that and see how they found solutions to problems in humorous ways. So I found that that's usually one of the highest motivating factors for me to studying law, that film, and seeing how it applies in real life, that I can find solutions to problems innovatively and in a way that you also earn something from finding those solutions. So I think that would be the route for me in terms of what inspired me to do law. And in terms of first year, I think when I went to first year, of course, Kenyan law, it's very different from suits and I used to joke it's more like Vioja Mahakamani than suits. I think when I went to law school, there was a bit of what you mentally adjust from what you saw on TV and the fanciness to the reality of how law school looks like. So that for me, and I think in first year, remember when you did the first set of units, I had a lot of interest in criminal law because it was exciting, and I'd see cases about criminals and murder and things being solved, and I thought this is a very exciting area to venture into. So I knew after I finish fourth year or after I graduate, I'd become a criminal lawyer or prosecutor or get into just that whole the direction of law. But then as time went by, or rather as after I finished, I realized that it's exciting to watch criminal law issues, but it's not very interesting to practice in terms of security. It's not safe for you, first of all, at times, and also in terms of when I look at the cost, what you're saying in terms of resources, I don't think it pays really well, especially if you're starting, apart from if you're a particular segment of really known lawyers who do a particular, and criminal has a lot of cutthroatness in it. So I divested. So nowadays I just watch criminal law like everyone. So someone would call me and say, "There, you saw someone was arrested." I also saw on TV. Yeah, so I think a lot of things, I watch it like the rest of other poor, not even lawyers. So that's as I mentioned, as I pivoted from fourth year, then got a chance in a law firm and got to experience a lot of civil litigation. So I got a chance in it's in a bigger law firm. I think it's called Triple Law, the bigger law firm in that experience. And I saw them, and I'd go to boardrooms and hear people talk about maybe revenues of 250 million, and it just for me it just was shocking, because they're not doing criminal in that sense, but they are generating revenues in the hundreds of millions, and they're a law firm. So you think, hey, okay, that's so it really opened my mind, I think, to look at the world in a very open way and see, hey, okay, there are so many other avenues of law that are really good and lucrative, and it's not the traditional way that we look at it. So I did that, then did a place, I think, Irumakot, where also we were together for some bits of time. I did a bit of work with them, saw them a lot of litigation, so going to court every day. And for me, it wasn't very inspiring. The idea that I'd have to wake up every day and trek to Milimani and back, and that will be my experience of life, wasn't as interesting to me. So as time went by, I realized it wasn't something that was very interesting to me. And then after a while, I think that law firm, I didn't get retained. There's a whole traditional way of how we look at law firms. We are taught, you become a lawyer, go to law school, get a law firm, get retained, become an associate, work your way forward to partnership or pivot after a number of years or something like that. So I didn't get that retainment after. I think I don't, but I remember I didn't get the retainment at some point in time. I think in 2019, not even that far back. So 2020, 2022, I think, yeah. So after I didn't get that, so I pivot. So at that point, so circumstances also made me, in a sense, think about pivoting and going to another direction that helped me. So I had also thought about other things, and I was really active on LinkedIn, and I met some colleagues who were in NGO. So they were in NGO. So a friend of mine was in an NGO, and we had networked. So they were leaving. They had gotten another job in another NGO, which had better pay, and their docket was left empty, in a sense. So they referred me to go and do and work there for some bit of time in their place. But it was a funded project, so it was, I think, for a number of months, I think 6 months or so. So at that point, it's when I realized, okay, I need to start also thinking about how I balance a lot of these things. I had a bit of clients before, so from a long time, I think from 2019, I had always had clients, just budget clients and mostly in the tech space. So startups, because they're also things I enjoyed naturally. I had friends in that area. So when I got that role, because it was a bit remote in a sense, and I'm not wanting to do this, but it's not that it paid, but not too much, but just enough. but it gave me a lot of time. So it gave me time to think, to see how I can be able to spend more time building my own practice and all that. So I did both of them, and they were very open to it. They're very supportive. So I was able to do both the what is it called, the NGO work during the day, and then build my own during in my own time. So I built, and I think I've told this story to a friend before. I built for the first, I just started with a domain. I think I hadn't even registered a law firm. Did a domain, or just wanted to see, got a domain, got emails, the basic things. Then after that, then I just started. Then I was joking to a friend that for the first 6 months, so at least I got a bit of pay from the NGO work that meet some of my core expenses like rent and food and some of those core expenses, but it wasn't a lot. So for the first 6 months, so it helped support me in a sense that I wasn't really reliant on this new business to meet my daily expenses. So I did the law, and I remember I was joking that the first 6 months I did the law firm, I made 10K. So I used to wonder, hey, okay, so if I'm making 10K in 6 months, if I'm to break that down per month, so it's not even your rent for 1 month, and that's what you've made over a period of 6 months. And at that point I was generalizing, so I was more of a general practitioner, and I did a lot of things generally. So I tried my hand at everything that I could catch. And yeah, so at that point, so it wasn't very profitable for me at that point. So that's when I decided to specialize. And there's a friend of mine who, I'll just give a mention. He's called Nehemiah. I don't think I don't know if he'll watch or not, but he's a friend of mine you had met in another forum a while back. So he took me through. He's South African. I think maybe they're more attuned to some of this branding thing. So he just asked me. So I met him and told him that I'm running a law firm, and things are not, if I'm used Gen Z language, they're not giving. Yeah, in a sense. So it's not giving. Yeah. So he told me you can't serve everyone. You have to find a way to get a demographic that you serve, and then identify that demographic, market to that demographic, build a relationship with that demographic, and work with that. So that's what informed a lot of my pivoting into, now let me go into this, because I realized, okay, I've been sitting like this, and all my clients are one type since campus, because my clients are people we met in campus, entrepreneurship hubs, because we talk about tech, and we talk about they're coming up with this. We'd have those discussions. It was natural to me, and I had so many of those friends, but I never thought about it as a practice area. So at the point where we had that conversation, I realized, okay, I can maybe, he told me it's building something called an avatar of your customer. And then from that, it's now you start first understanding yourself, understanding what is natural to you. Because it is, okay, a lot of things may not, for example, some aspects of litigation, insurance are not natural to me. Conveyancing land, I honestly don't like it. I know people say people make money, but me, my honest view, and I even told it to a client if I don't like it, it's very messy. It's very, first I find it to be redundant, not very active, doesn't make your mind feel active. So I just didn't like conveyancing as a practice. I didn't like criminal as a practice. I didn't like going to court every day. I didn't like insurance as a practice because I had seen it. So I went to something that I knew I enjoyed. So I focused on that area and tried to build and realize that, okay, there are more needs that I can serve in that particular demographic, and now just double down and focus on that area and learned along the way the more needs, and because it's a community of people that I knew, some I met, they absorbed me in a sense. The community accepted me, and it was easy to even pitch. It wasn't even difficult to get clients. So that's literally the journey from then at least, but still didn't make a lot of profit for the first year. I think the first year, I don't think I made even more than 100,000 for the whole year. And that's the first year, not more than 100,000. Yeah, so that a lot of things started maybe picking up on the second year. I think second year a bit more, maybe the second half, the third quarter of the second year, that things started to pick up a bit more. And as you build and you're consistent and all of that things start to build up a bit more. Yeah, and I think by I think the second year or so, I think I was making a lot more, because the sums I'd say I'd make over a year, maybe I'd make over a month or half a month. So things started to make a bit more sense from that, I think, second half of the year going forward, for the second.
I actually love what you're saying about seeing what's natural to you and inclining to that. And I feel like when we have this, as you said, this particular path we have been told, you go to a law firm, and a good law firm at that, go to a top tier law firm, get retained there and continue. And sometimes it's not natural to you, but you stick along without inclining with what is natural to you. So as you said, you were talking to people in tech, and then it was okay, this seems very natural to me, and I'm getting these clients because of the kind of enthusiasm I have in this, and also interest. And also I really resonate on sometimes doing work that feels redundant, and you want something that is provoking your mind. So asking yourself, is this, giving me the urge that I want to have when I'm doing my work? But I love what Nehemiah told you, like in terms of like having, you've said, an avatar, and so like being very specialized and going like, this is the kind of client I have. But I sort of think that sometimes when people go to like the law firm practice, you want to be generous so that you're spreading like your net wide, so that you can get a conveyancing there, criminal law there, so that you expand your pool. And I wonder, like, what are the trade-offs when you decide to now niche down? And I'm doing tech and startups, in terms of revenue, but also at the same time, like, how difficult is it? But what are the good side? What's the good side of actually saying, this is exactly what I'm doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. And people ask me, because I think most people that I interact with, the same peers, they don't really see the sense in terms of why are you specializing at that point. Some people say you should specialize at a point in time.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off. But from where I sit, my perspective of it is, as you focus on a particular area, you get to understand it more. And as you focus on a particular client, you get to know a lot of things. You build connections in the industry. It's easier for you to stand out as an individual if you're focusing on a particular demographic of clientele. Yeah. Yes, there are trade-offs. As I mentioned, there are times when because I think I got some office space somewhere after some time. So there are times when I've had to tell a client, I really don't want to take your brief, even though I don't have anything else. So maybe it's a property client or someone who does that. I don't want to, because I know I need to narrow down. And you see, practice is not just about getting the clients. There's a process. The process of getting a client means you need to spend your time in particular environments, with particular people, doing particular things. If I take everything, I can't do that. Yeah. I can't do that. So they're painful trade-offs, I think, for me, but I look at it in the longer term sense. So when there's a client who's shocked that why are you, so there are property clients that we shared space with. Yeah. So workspace. So they're shocked. Why are you focusing on that area? I'm here. I'm trying to offer you work, and you're not. You're reluctant. So it didn't make sense to him. And even the people had explained to them, they probably didn't see the sense, because it looks like you're rejecting work. But how I looked at it, I knew it's something long term. So I'm investing in a long term context, in the sense that I know if I specialize in that particular demographic and I'm known for one particular thing, it's easier for me to attract clientele. Even if I didn't see the clients at that point, it's a belief that I had. It's easier for me to attract clientele, to also build knowledge. You see, there's a way when you spread. So when you talk about everything, you know small bits about everything. When you narrow down to 2 or 3 areas, you know a lot about those 2 or 3 areas. So even when you go and pitch, it's very difficult for some. You have a very difficult chance pitching when you're wide. So I know a bit about conveyancing, I know a bit about criminal, I know a bit about property, I know a bit about intellectual property. So you spread. And the human brain is limited. You can't know everything. So you know a bit. So even in terms of what you're offering the client, is just that shallow knowledge. But when you have 2 or 3 specific areas, your depth of reasoning is very high. Your depth of understanding is very high. Your networks, because you talk about the same thing, the same ecosystem, it accumulates. It's like something called compound interest. It accumulates in that particular area, and you end up being a better offering to the client. And it takes time, but you also tend to get a better client, more willing to pay in terms of the sums that you're interested in. So in that sense, so also there are trade-offs, because I get at, for the longest bit, a lot of my clients, I didn't have as many clients perhaps as maybe the peers who went general. But in the long run, the quality of clients that I got for me were better, and it made sense for me in the long term, in a long-term sense, and I get to do something that I enjoy. So it's an added advantage. It's not just the payment. I also enjoy this thing. When I wake, of course, I get fatigued sometimes, but I literally enjoy what I'm doing. I wake up and I'm excited. I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this, and I like resources and I like money a lot. But life often it's not just about. It's also about, are you enjoying your experience of life, or are you waking up just to do whatever you're supposed to do and not really enjoy it, then the next day. So for me, I like that balance. I get paid for it, but I enjoy, I feel happy with what I'm doing here.
And I know like there's a narrative in the legal circles of like in the first 5 years you have to struggle, even if you don't like it, like show up and do those things. And I love that thing of like, there's money, yes, but what's the quality of your life? Because at the end of the day, you can't be working for money, but you're not even loving what you're doing in the first place. You mentioned like in the first year, the time you're dividing like the 10,000 over 6 months, and you're like, okay, in 10,000 over 6 months, how much is that per month? It's not even my rent. I'm just curious, was there a sort of like fear when you're getting like to niche down, not even niche down, but start your practice? Was there fear of, will I make the 250 million that I saw in like, Triple K when I was like in that top tier law firm. So I'm curious, when you were pivoting, did you think, oh, I'm going to make this amount of money? Or were you fearful, am I going to even be able to pay my bills in the first place? And if those fears were there, like, what still kept you going and not thinking, oh, I need to look for a job in a law firm now?
Yeah, that's interesting. I still haven't made that 250. Maybe in future I pray, but I haven't really made anything close to that. The in terms of fears, yes, a lot of them. Actually, a lot of them, because I didn't have a lot. What is it called? You see, I didn't have, what is it called? They're called godfathers. I didn't have someone backing me. For me, it's just an idea, and a lot of people, even around me, even close, they didn't see the sense, because I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. I come from a family of people who do their job. They go to 8 to 5 and they get jobs, and they believe your way to success is get a job, put your head down, do 8 to 5, that's it. So even the whole idea, even in my family, it wasn't really welcome, in a sense of that you're becoming an entrepreneur, and we've never seen that. It's not how people succeed look like. So there was that, and then there's also fear in terms of will I make those the coins, because even as I mentioned, even the NGO that I got was a 6-month contract. So after the 6 months, I didn't have anything else to do, and there was that idea of, okay, do I first, after I left the law firm, actually, to be more authentic, after I left the law firm, I think I still tried to get jobs after some time, before it hit me, okay, I'm sending 50 applications, nothing is happening, so maybe it's a door that's closed for a reason. So I did have all of those fears, whether it's going to make any profit, it's going to make any sense, I'm going to meet my expenses, and whether all of it is going to make sense in the long run. So I had a lot of those fears. But then there's some guy I watch, I think it's called Jim Brown or something. He said everything is hard and everything has fear. Nothing, there's no security in life. And the clearest thing of that is we all die at the end. Like, that's how risky life is. Everyone dies at the end. So there's no looking for safety. It's a myth. Even if you say, for example, you go and work in a law firm, even a law firm is a business. It depends on clients to serve them. Even if you work for Safaricom, it's a business. And you see it, even the ones who are a bit older will see that even companies like Telcom, there was a time they were a state company, and people got redundant. They went under redundancy something. Yeah. So people were told to go home in an 8 to 5, a government job, the most secure job that. So he just debunked that myth, and I realized there's really no safety. It's just different degrees of it. Even if you're working somewhere, everything is a business. Even government is a business. We pay tax. Remember, there's a time we didn't pay tax and then people weren't paid. Because it's a business. Everything in life is a business. So it's just that maybe some, because of reputation and a bit longer time, it's easier for them to do the business. But at all, everything is risky. The whole light of existence, it's risk. So for me, I think the thing also, it's exciting to also have the experience of me waking up. I feel it challenges me to wake up and say, okay, by there I need to make X amount of money this month. It's exciting. It's terrifying, but I like the thrill. It's like bungee. You don't know if you're going to get it, but you're believing you're going to get it. So it's like there's a thrill you get. So there were fears, and definitely was afraid about all of those things. And I still do get some of those, because fears, they don't end, they grow. For example, you start and maybe your fear is, okay, am I going to pay myself? And then am I going to maybe pay the domain this month? Then you grow to a level, okay, am I going to pay rent? And then you get to another level, am I going to pay this person? So I've given this person a job, do I have the money to pay them, or will clients come? And then, okay, so they increase. It never ends. I don't think it ends at any point in time. They increase as you go. But then you also develop a bit more resilience, and just realize you rely on also the past successes. So after you crafted your strategy and all that, you really remember, okay, there's a time I was like this, and then I got a certain amount. There's a time I was like this, and I got a certain amount. Then all of that. And then also the fact that I had spent some time learning about even the really old law firms. And most of these guys started like that. They were not really fancy. Some started ambulance chasing. The fancy ones, okay, I won't mention, but the fancy ones that we know, it's ambulance chasing, trying here and there, going to courts to pick briefs along the way, around the road. The really big firms that we know of today. So no one starts fancy. And we just start and you try. And at the end of the day, it's my belief has always been, it's better that I grow. Even if I do something and it comes to a point I realize, okay, maybe I failed at this. It's at least I grew. I tried. At the end of the day, when I'm old, I'm 80, and I'm looking back at my life, I won't say, I wanted to do this thing, but I was too scared. I'll say, maybe I tried, but it didn't work, or I tried and it worked. It's a better regret for me. It's a better regret for me to say I tried and it didn't work than I never even tried. I just worked for someone for 50 years, never built anything on my own. But so it's better. I look at my regrets at the end of my life, and I choose my regrets wisely.
That's really profound. And I really wonder, like, whether law school prepared you for this. Like, do you feel like law school prepares you for this particular trajectory, being an entrepreneur? Because I've had people say that there's like the law, knowing the law, and then there's the business, like, of the law. And I wonder whether, I know we did entrepreneurship as in KU, like in first year we had an unit, a common unit for entrepreneurship. I don't know how much. I can just remember doing a business plan for a project, but I can't remember much. But do you think law school prepares people for that? Are there experiences in law school you're like, oh, this prepared me for this particular moment, or me being an entrepreneur? Or are there things that you just had to figure out that were not necessarily taught in law school?
It doesn't teach you anything about entrepreneurship. It's very limited. They teach you a lot about theory about, I think, if you already have a law firm, how maybe to run it in legal practice in a sense, but also very limited. It doesn't really teach you about getting business. It doesn't teach you about environments. And you see, even if a law firm is a business. It's much like everything else. It works in an environment, an ecosystem. So a lot of things are at play whenever a law firm is operating. There are a lot of people are coming. There are a lot of competitors. A lot of things. So it's a lot. It doesn't teach you anything about how to craft. And my experience of it doesn't teach you anything about how to start a business, how to craft it, how to scale it, what that looks like. I've had to teach myself all of these things. I've read books. If I can count the number of books I read, because maybe that will come in terms of my schedule. Every single day when I start, my first 2 or 3 hours of the day are reading. So either but it's audio, so mostly it's audio. So I read Jim Rohn, I read different business books and different guys who talk about business. So that's how I learn. So you make it a regime at least 2 or 3 times a week to take 2 or 3 hours in the morning to just learn about something. Maybe today you're learning about managing client relationships, or you're learning about marketing, or you're learning about, so you teach yourself. It hasn't really helped. So it's just for, and for me also, unlike if you're in a law firm and you work in a law firm, they are degrees. So if you're a pupil, there are associates who are there, and so you're able to ask, by the way, what is X, what is something happened. But for entrepreneurship, it's you. Most of the time, it's you. You learn from your mistakes, and then from there you're able to grow. I give you an example of a mistake that I made, maybe to help. There's a time I talked to a client. Then the client was asking me. So there's a way clients talk, and they ask you, by the way, yes, you're impressed. You have some knowledge in this area. Tell us about your team. I didn't know what the heck a team was. I said I'm in WhatsApp groups that discuss these issues. I didn't know that by team he meant, tell me I have 2 assistants, I have 1 partner. I didn't know. I just say, by the way, I'm in WhatsApp groups, discuss these issues. When something is hard for me, I'll go and discuss with them. So it hit me some time after that, I blew that up, and that client just went, because I think they were so shocked. What are you even talking about? Because they're expecting a different kind of response. But you see, so you learn through some of those things. You learn that was a bad pitch. I learned, for example, certain avenues don't work for me to market. I learned so many things as time goes. So you just learn, and you keep relearning, learning, and just taking those things in stride and moving from there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Law school doesn't really prepare you for this trajectory, and you said you read like a lot of books, but I'm curious, especially because you've niched down to like tech and startups, are there certain professional skills that you have found important where you are like, okay, I need to upskill on this, and you actually upskill on that? And also, like, tied to that, like, what's the value of postgraduate studies when you're in this niche? Is it important, or is it like it's neither here nor there?
That's a really interesting question. Yeah, so I think also niching down has made me have to learn certain things, and to really learn a lot of things, especially as you grow. So as I mentioned, when you start a business, it's you doing everything. So you tend to be the receptionist, the accountant, all of those things. And what you're focused on is getting clients. When you grow to a certain level, you maybe get another person to help you, or someone else to help you with that. And as you also grow, you get more people to help you. So even your roles become more, like right now, it's managing relationships more than really doing the legal work. I have to manage, the client has this expectation. Okay, so I have a person who works for me, or rather we work together, a colleague. This is their personality. I need to understand how they work to motivate them to work. So no one taught me all of these things. So I've had to learn about understanding people's expectations, people's emotions, and working with them. So it's a skill that I've been forced to learn. Even as you engage also in tech, it's a very unique space. techies are also a particular specific bunch of people, so they talk in a particular way, they think in a particular way, they are generally very aversive to law. They don't see, because they think lawyers are very rigid, structured, so they are very antagonistic to law. So sometimes working around those antagonisms, they don't like regulations, they like freedom, they like being able to make their choices. So being able to now move from there and still build relationships with people, or rather build relationships with people who are antagonistic to the whole idea of a lawyer, is something that I've had to learn to break some of those barriers slowly with the people I've been working with, and just also show them your usefulness. Because you see, they're not the traditional client. If you see, the traditional clients won't care that you they gave you work, you just went somewhere, took a template, redid it. For them, they say, I can do this, I can go on ChatGPT and then do this myself. So what is the value you're adding? So you have to increase a bit. You have to determine what kind of value you can offer them beyond just maybe documentation. Maybe I can connect you to this person, or this is the kind of value you can add. So I've had really to think about what value do I offer as a lawyer in the wake of technology, particularly when you're working with people who understand all of these things and can draft something on their own. Now, what value addition do you give them for them to be willing to engage you as a lawyer? So a lot of that. I think there's something else you've asked that I've forgotten.
The postgraduate. Like,
postgraduate. Okay. So I think it's important for me. Okay, I've done KSL, done a number of certifications in addition to that, and I also would want to do a master's at some point in time. I think for me, what my look of it is, I think it's really important, and it adds value to you depending also what you want to do. So for me, some specific specializations of learnings were really important, because I do a lot also on data protection and all that. So some learning around that was important to me. And with time, I'd also want to do a master's on that particular area. So my view of it has always been, it's good to at least practice a bit to understand what areas interest you, so that even when you're going to a master's, you're focusing on getting postgraduates, whichever you're focusing on an area that has connected to you. Not as opposed to, sometimes when you go to campus and you graduate, everyone wants to become an arbitrator, CRAB, because it's cool, and then mediator, and then, but then you realize 2 years along the line, you don't even want to mediate anything, because you haven't really connected to yourself and what you want to do, and you just want to get, because everyone is getting them. So my thought has always been contextualizing it to yourself as a person and saying, for me to do X and Y, I need to these are the things that I need. I need to get a certificate from here. I need to get something from here. Maybe in time I get a master's from here and all that. So it's always been for me contextualizing some of these journeys and not focusing on what someone else is doing and what's attractive to someone else, just what connects to you and because everyone is on a journey, and that's my belief. Everyone is on a journey. I'm on a journey, you're on a journey, everyone is on a journey. So it's really about connecting to that journey. It's not similar. Journeys are not popular. So sometimes in law, the problem, we are very peer influenced. So we see everyone is getting an arbitrator something, everyone wants to get it. So you see, but is it connecting to what you're trying to do, or you just get it and 3 years down the line you've never done anything with it, or you don't enjoy using it. So it's also, I come from the school of thought of connecting and understanding what journey are you on, and then how do I align everything to that? If it's higher education, that. If it's whatever career choice I'm taking, it's that. So journey.
Yeah. Actually, I have a video where I share about like post-pupillage anxiety, like where there's this trajectory, like sort of like thing we have been told you have to be retained. And I don't know, there's certain people you find, it's actually my latest video, but by the time this video goes up, it's like months later. But I shared about how there's a certain trajectory we are told you have to go by. And then when you're not retained in a law firm and then you're waiting admission, there's that period where there's sort of like uncertainty, and there's also pressure to conform, to go a certain way because everyone is going through that way. And there's a quote I read that comparison makes you not have the marvel of your own story, because you're looking at your story with another person's story. So imagine if you're thinking about your story vis-a-vis Anne's story, which is different, then you're not able to marvel at how you've been able to build this practice and how this journey is actually like going at the end of the day. And I think that is what makes us go and do all these courses. Do you know, like in pupillage, when I was doing pupillage, I don't know if you've seen these courses by WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization. They have these introductory courses. So I had seen that people normally go and do them. And by virtue of being in the creative space, I sort of felt a pressure to, then I have to do IP because I'm in the creative space. But I hadn't like realized I love creating content, but not necessarily like the nitty-gritties of IP and all that. But it took a while for me to actually realize that. And so I really struggled with that because I actually never finished it. And I remember a friend of mine finished it, did another one. And then when I discovered like my niche, but I will talk about it more in the video, and I'll be talking about being in the NGO space. But when I started now doing things to do with like energy, environment, and climate, like I have done so many courses, and it's not from a point of I want to add this to have it, but it's from a point of curiosity. You're just curious like about this knowledge, and I think also like tapping into what are you most curious about would really help. And I love that, like that thing of looking at quality over quantity and not just amassing them because people are amassing them. I'm curious about like when you talk about startups, like how challenging, because I'm thinking as a startup, I want to reduce my costs. As you said, like when even you as you're starting your law firm, you want to make sure like you're not having like 10 associates and all that because it doesn't make business sense. So I'm curious, like how do you approach startups and actually like charge them, like, and then also thinking, okay, undercutting and all that. So like how do you ensure that you're still getting value for money, but also being cognizant of this is a startup? Are there certain arrangements then you make, like for instance, and I'm not preempting, but for instance, when you grow, this is going to happen, you can go on a retainer, like how do you navigate that? Because I can see how that can be challenging.
Okay, I get what you're saying, and it's a really interesting question. I think for me, particularly because when I started, I did what is called penetrative marketing. I think a lot of people didn't understand it, but there's something in marketing called penetrative marketing, where you when you're gauging a market, you can offer some of those things at lower prices and all of that for you to be able to offer them. And I know there's a counterbalance between that, and because you have an ARO that requires, for example, you're supposed to charge a certain minimum amount of time and money and all that, and I think there are different ways to navigate. And I also don't think this really just applies to startups. I think it generally applies to if you're serving a small business or serving people you're just starting, or if you're starting out, maybe if by luck you might score KCB, but chances are you're not going to score KCB. You're not going to score Centum. You're going to score maybe the guy who just started a company and next door. So I think there's a balance to it where you can be able to understand how to structure and how to also what kind of service you can offer them, because they are, for example, offers a particular, or rather categorizes some particular sets of services, but then there are a lot of other services you can offer to them. For example, maybe if it makes sense, instead of doing a company registration for someone, you can just consult, guide them through the process, and then find a fee to charge them for that process, because now you're consulting, as opposed to, because if you're doing it, there's a standard you're supposed to charge, and the person may not be able to afford it. So I think that also helps you in terms of being able to structure it in a way that works, and also adjusting to that. And maybe also it's good also to really to be asked in a sense. So the problem is when people start out, you okay, maybe let me use my example. I got a chance to briefly be an intern in this law firm. I saw this law firm has 10 different offices and they have 20 different staffs, and I want to start it, and I don't have generational wealth or something, but I want to start and I want to do that, like be like them. So I think it's a bad way, because you're not asked. Because if you sit with some of these guys, or even just read their stories, they didn't start where they are. You're starting on year one. You're comparing yourself with someone who's built for 30 years. They have 30 years worth of goodwill, where you're just starting. Then you want to be on the same plane. It really doesn't work. So I think a lot of the arrangements that you can make to also reduce your costings. There are co-working spaces that you can use instead of taking a traditional office space. You can take a co-working space that is easier on you. Depending on where you are, you have access to facilities, and you can even get a closed office or whichever, depending on the arrangements you have as you grow. But you get more amenities for the same price. For example, the price you'd go to town and get a small cubicle alongside 50 other lawyers in Bruce House, you can go somewhere else and get a space, at least with a receptionist, with someone to handle your mail, a decent boardroom to meet clients with, at a price that is the same for what you'd pay for your own small space. And again, you don't have to, because furniture also is another thing. So it can help you, and then as you scale, you can find ways to navigate around them. I think those are ways to cost cut, and also it's good to understand the clients, and also to really open your mind to see what services people are interested in, because it's very wide and things there are people, there are new industries coming up, and it's really good. And also the thing is, the issue with the problem with Kenyans, and I think as well as a whole, is we copy. That's a problem. We don't really take, like, the thing about, I think they're called quails. Quails happen. People realize, okay, quails, they have medicinal treatment. Everyone in Kenya kept quails, then the market crashed. Because we copy instead, and I'm not saying it's bad. You can also take some time and learn from someone, but don't copy, because chances are whatever someone used, it's not replicative. Success is rarely replicative. You can do, for example, you can do this content and it blows up. It's difficult for me to come and do it because already you've done it, you have fast market something and all that. But I can come and I can come and learn something from you and then contextualize it to a different demographic. So it's really good to do that. It helps you to take learnings and contextualize them. Don't copy seniors or copy what someone else did, or just find ways. There are so many things, and with social media and with how the world is changing, as a young person, there are so many ways to be able to appeal, to get clients, to find a demographic to serve online. There's so many. For example, I saw there's a lawyer, I think, saw on the Business Daily something. She's a wealth lawyer. All she does is help old rich people write wills and plan and get estates. All that she does. There's a lady who I've never met her, but I really admire what she does. She's called Liz Lenzo. Yes, Liz Lenzo does primarily fashion. I think it's fashion and IP. She has an IP studio. That's all she does. We go to a traditional law firm, tell them we serve fashion designers. They don't even see how that makes sense. There are lawyers that I've seen who are even heavy on new areas like cryptocurrency and some of these new regulations, really young ones. And really, so this is an industry and they've learned it and they're doing a lot of that. So it's good to also be original in a sense, get learnings from everyone, but try and be original. And my belief is a lot of these things are usually internal. We just think they're outside. And in as much as, yes, I believe government, even in terms of the economy, the government has a role to play and all of those, and these ones are not doing a very good job. But the point is, a lot of things are internal to us. The things that we really need to get what we need are internal. When you sit down and look, it's really internal. For example, this story about, he tells me, a colleague telling me about some guy who started a law firm in Umasaini, those Kajiado places. They don't have a website or a domain, doesn't have, but he knows the language and he just sits there, has an office, sits there, gets briefs because he just knows the language and he connects with those communities. There are guys who go to maybe some area, and all their clients are walking because they're in Mashinani, so there are people interested in some of those down to, as in the services they can see and access, and it's easy for them. So there's no one size fits it all. There's no one way. It's just about, and even niching itself is not just about even just the areas, it's also how you do the practice. You can be a general firm in a specific location. So if you're a general firm and you go to some place in Kajiado, you're a general firm, but you're in Kajiado, maybe the only lawyer in that whole region, and maybe someone is selling cows and all that, or you go to Busia and you're offering a particular service, and if you're keen, you'll see many areas in this country, the whole towns, and you can count the lawyers are not more than 5. Compare maybe to Nairobi, where they say you throw a stone, you hit a lawyer, a single mother, or some joke around that. So no offense to any category of that. So, but you can find places, you can differentiate geographically, you can differentiate practice-wise, you can differentiate in a number of offering-wise, so you can get technology to help you to differentiate your offering, the services and all that. So there are different ways to niche. You don't just think niche in terms of practice area. Think it in all of those different dimensions according to what is natural to you.
Well, I've never thought of it that way, and it has actually taken me back to a friend of mine who wanted to start a practice. I don't know if he did, if maybe, I'm sure he's watching this, so he will tell us if he started. But he was saying, I want to go to Kiserian, and he was saying, kuna. And I was like, Kiserian, where are you going to Kiserian? Not Nairobi. So I love like those perspectives, like you can niche down in different ways. So I'm curious, just going back to like the first question we did, even as we think about wrapping up, I think, what would you tell your first year law self? Because I have people who watch and they're in first year, second year, majority are in the Kenya School of Law, but what would you tell yourself as you were starting up, or like this one thing you're like, I wish I knew this, or I wish someone told me this? I know there could be a lot of things, but what are some of the things you're like, I wish someone told me this?
I think it gets better. It gets better. I think that's an easier thing because in terms of information, you can find it online. But I think what is usually deficient is hope. So when you look, especially when you study law, there are a lot of things people tell you. For example, I think before I joined, I was told, this law, it's very flooded. And I remember I keep saying this at the time, so I was in Nakuru, so I got, after I got my results, I had performed well. So I was told, go and study medicine, do something, and law is flooded. Then I remember I met this lawyer in Nakuru. Then I told him, I'm considering studying law, but I'm told it's flooded, there are so many lawyers, it's not a good field to do. Then he told me something I'll never forget. If it's flooding, float. Find a way to float. And that's literally that word held me for I think 6 years. And it's just find a way to float. It's flooding, yes, but find a way to float. We live in the same market where you say There are lawyers in Jivanji who sit there with shitty with rubber bands.
Yeah.
But Kikorir charges, I think, 1 billion shillings of fee notes, and he gets paid. So
Yeah.
it's the same market, it's
Yeah.
the same economy,
Yeah.
the same people, so coming to the same profession. So it's really just it gets better, and also just find a way to float. Yeah. As you're starting, just if it's flooded, float. Yeah. Yes, there are different ways to float. What we've discussed, it gets better, and find a way to float. Yeah.
So if it's flooded,
find a way to float. Yeah.
So Meshack, you mentioned that the first 2 to 3 hours of your day, you normally like read a book. So I want to know, what does a typical week look like? Just an overview. And what do you enjoy most about your week? And which one are you like, okay, I have to do this, but I don't really like doing this, but I have to do it. Yeah. I think
in my typical day, it's wake up in the morning. So if it's waking up in the morning, exercise. So there are days I go to the gym, but mostly just it's in-house. So just exercise, then after exercise, and then I also, so while exercising or just in the course of the day, just listen. I usually had set apart, I think, 1 hour to 2 hours of just learning. So I make sure I learn a new thing every day. If it's an audiobook, I'm listening at least 2 or 3 times a week, because that's maybe Monday, Tuesday, and on Wednesday. So I learn something new that I can implement. So maybe today I'm learning about how to manage client relationships. Then I try and implement it in the course of the week. So I do I try at least, so that in a week I have maybe 4 or 5 hours of learning that I've just acquired. So at least your brain is also, your brain is like software. It needs to upgrade every single day. When you get stuck, if you use Android 7.0, your phone won't work. So you need to get to 14.0, whichever, however you go. So just upgrading that. And then now for that is not checking on how many matters are pending. So right now I have, they say, the blessing of a team, in a sense. So I have people who we work with. So now it's easy. I just check on every single thing. There's a sheet that I have for the matters. I know what's supposed to happen here and here. And if it's someone who's supposed to do something, I tell them to do that. Or if it's me supposed to do something, I write it. I take a notebook, write it down. I write all the tasks that I have, maybe 10. And then I start working on them. Though at the end of the day, as I work on them, I tick, which has really helped in terms of productivity. So if I say, for example, call a client, I tick. See, that tick helps me feel I've accomplished something. Go to the next one. So write a list of some of those things, and then tick them off. And then after that, so just that's in terms of the and then just go. So if sometimes I work from home, sometimes I go to the office. So when I go to the office, so it's a different arrangement. So that's largely how it looks like. If I have to attend court, so I mostly have other people do court, because again, it's not, I really enjoy it. But for some of the matters that I'm, let's say, passionate about, I go to court and make submission, do a hearing on those submissions and all of those things. And now move to the next bit. So that's the bit of both. There's something else you've asked that I've.
What do you like the most? Like the one thing you like the most, the thing you like the least.
Okay, so I think also maybe I can start with the thing I like the least, and then so the thing I like the least, maybe it's maybe the stress of dealing with people, different maybe emotions. That for me, like when it comes to work, I like work, so I like doing it. But now when I have to understand maybe this client feels what and all that, it's not that I like it the least, it's hard at that bit. And also of course I mentioned there's a stress. If you're running a business, you have a certain amount you need to make for the month to make sense. And maybe if you're budgeting as a quarter, for you to feel at rest, you need to have a certain amount targeted. And as you grow and as you get people and other things, the amount becomes higher. So the stress of that, when you're not sure whether this full amount is going to come in and at what, whether it will come in at time, whether I'll settle my obligations. So the stress of it, the fatigue, when you start out, the thing is you're praying for many matters to come in. But as matters come in and it's good and you're happy, then you have overwhelmed. So you're overwhelmed because there are so many things, and maybe you're still teaching people that. So sometimes they get overwhelmed by so many things, and you see at a time maybe you have 10 to 15 clients with separate things who are calling you, trying to find out where is the status of all this. And you see, for the lawyer's job is to absorb someone else's stress. Someone has a case, they come, you absorb my stress, handle it. Someone wants something, you do it. So that stress, and that sometimes getting tired. But I think that can be resolved by delegating with time. So that's the bit that is usually not the least interesting, the bits of uncertainty. Yeah, but the most, I think, interesting for me, it's, I think, the idea that you're serving people and they're happy. Because I get clients who you're done and they're happy, and they send you a whole message or even call you just saying how happy they are that you helped them. And so that bit is really that. And I also enjoy the part where I get to give people opportunities, because I know sometimes opportunities can seem scarce. Yeah. Or the part where even in my own small ways, I can find someone and give them an opportunity or help you at least have something. it's healing for me, and I have had negative experiences in places I've worked before, in certain law firms and experiences. So being able to be in an environment where you can create a culture that is more, it's respectful, it's healthy, you get to work and you get paid and you enjoy your environment to a certain, I hope they do, but you enjoy in a certain extent. It's healing for me. So I find that I get to be what I did not have, and that's even why I came, because I wish someone would have told me this when I was starting, but I never had anyone. So it's the hope that at least someone will watch and then it will help them.
And on your last point, I can vouch for that. I don't know if you remember, but there's a time we briefly did some work, but because of my schedules and all that was happening, we're not able to. But I see that openness that you have to open up what you have to other people to experience that and to do that. And that's really good. So as we wrap up, I would like you to look at that camera. Talk to a prospective law student, a law student, or a lawyer who's maybe in a law firm or in the NGO and is like, I would really love to go to practice, but they're so afraid and they don't want to make that jump. Yeah, as your parting shot. And also any other parting shot that you're like, okay, maybe I can say something else. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll just say safety and security is a myth. There's a myth that you have a job and you're safe and secure. It's a myth. Nothing in the world is safe. It's just about, even, and the whole I mentioned that, life is so unsafe that you die at the end. So there's nothing. So you just have to find a way which risk it's worth taking, and then also which regret is worth having. So you can, at the end of your life, you can regret that, hey, I started a law firm and then maybe after 2 years it didn't work. Or you can regret that I wanted to start but I never did it. So which regret would you rather have at 80 years or with the number of years God gives you in life? So that bit. And then maybe just that it does get better. And beyond just doing work, it's also good to connect with the longer term purpose that really God has for you in life. If you believe in God, okay, maybe believe in God. So in terms of what God has for your life and the journey that you're at place, it can look like you're just similar and you're all in the same journey and all of us want to get retained, but everyone has an individual journey, and it's really good to find out what that journey is and to connect to that, so that your whole life is just a journey. You're not just following everyone else and doing what other people do, but you're connected to what you're brought on earth to do. If that's entrepreneurship, well and good. If it's that's working in a law firm, well, and if it's an NGO, it's well and good. But just connect to that journey and live in that journey, so that at the end of the day you finish your journey. You don't finish, life is like a race, so you run your lane. So if you miss and jump, you'll finish it, but finish it on someone else's lane. So just your lane and your journey. Find that and then live that. Yeah.
Wow, this was amazing. Thank you. You have so much wisdom, and I actually feel like we should have had like a longer time. And I know even as you progress and learn more lessons, I'd really love to have you back. Hopefully, like I keep up with this particular thing that I'm doing. But thank you so much for being open to share and not keeping that knowledge that you have, because I'm sure if we have more people doing this thing, then it will be really great. So thank you so much for watching. I think for me, one of the thing that is in my mind right now is, if it's flooded, just float, because that's one of the things that I have felt sort of thinking, like, is this place flooded? Even where I'm at right now, I'm like, maybe there are so many people doing this thing, but also even as you think about niching down, there are different ways to think about it. It's not like I'm just a tech lawyer or an IP lawyer, but also how do you do it? Is it geographical? Just thinking about that, there's so much wisdom. I could now regurgitate the whole episode. So I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching this. And one of the things that I'm interested, do you have any further questions for Meshack? Put them down on the chat. I think if we have a lot of questions at the end of this series, we'll figure out how we can, answer those in a certain way. So if you have any particular question, comment, please leave it down below. Remember to like this video, to subscribe. There's more content coming up in terms of opening up the space to other people other than me to share their experiences. And as I always say, these experiences are based on my experience and the experiences of my guests. They're not prescriptive. You don't have to, because Meshack reads 2 to 3 hours a day, then you go ahead and read 2 to 3 hours a day. Take this information and then tailor make it for your own particular purpose, and go and run with it and go and thrive in your career and thrive in what you do. So thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, bye-bye.